So you want to give solo camping a try. I think that's an awesome idea. I love to get out and camp on my own. It can be an adventure. In many ways it can be empowering. It's an exciting time to be out solo camping. However, it can be a little scary. In today's video, I hope to give you some tips to make your solo camping trip the best yet. Okay, so thanks for joining me. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dave, also known as the Lazy Camper. I appreciate taking the time to watch my video. I hope you're okay with my friends making a lot of noise in the background because the woods are quite alive right now and they're very loud. I asked them to keep it down. That only pissed them off and made things worse. What are you gonna do? Anyways, today we're talking about solo camping. I absolutely love solo camping. I've been doing it for a while and it's one of my favorite ways to get out there. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to camp with my kids and I love to camp with my friends. It's just a different kind of camping when you're out on your own and you got to do all the work on your own out solo camping. Now, the first tip I'm going to give you is to pick the right campsite. Now, what do I mean by that? It's actually pretty simple. If it's the first time you've ever been solo camping, I really suggest you go car camping. Essentially, you drive your car up to the site, you park your car at your own campsite, and then you set up your gear. If you want, you can camp in the car, but I suggest you car camp and then set up a tent or a hammock and try camping that way. The idea here is that you still have your car around. If anything goes wrong, if it storms, whatever, you have your car, which is a safety feature. You can get in your car in a storm, no problem, don't have to worry about anything. And besides, what if there's too many bugs? You absolutely hate being out in the woods on your own. Well, there you go. You can jump in the car and you'll be much safer this way. Also, when I say pick the right campsite, do your research and know the facilities around your specific campsite. If you're car camping, there's a good chance there's going to be at least an outhouse or probably even a bathroom with running water, maybe even a shower to make your first solo camping trip a little bit easier on yourself. Of course, when you're camping, it doesn't have to be a car campsite. There are a lot of other options out there and you feel a little bit more adventurous, that's great. Canoe camping, kayak camping, backpacking, bike packing, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can get out in the woods and find a good campsite. If you want to do Crownland camping, well, that's a little bit more adventurous, and maybe for your first time, maybe stick to something a little bit more safe. But Crownland camping, once you get used to it, solo Crownland camping is a great adventure. To be out there on your own, knowing it's just the woods and you, that's absolutely awesome. But I think it's really important for your first time solo camping is to pick a campsite that you're comfortable with. So when you finally decide to go camping on your own and you picked out your spot, now it's time to get your gear. Hopefully you have some gear already and you don't have to go out and buy new gear. If you do have to buy new gear, I wouldn't suggest going out and buying the top of the line stuff, because what if you don't like it? A good idea is to borrow some gear for the first time and see if you like camping, and if it's one of those things you really like solo camping, then go ahead and slowly invest in the gear. But the other important thing is once you have the gear is know how to set it up. So if it's a tent, make sure you set up the tent in your backyard at a park so that you're confident and you know how to set up that tent so that when you get to the campsite, you're not like, oh crap, what are these poles for? Where do these pegs go? Believe me, if you try to set up new gear at the campsite, it's going to be frustrating. I guarantee it. So make sure you get the gear, but then also that you know the gear and that you're comfortable setting it up. And once you have all your gear and you know how to set it up, I also suggest you pack a little bit extra. Whether that be an extra flashlight, a headlight, extra food, fire starters, anything that you think you might use up quickly, maybe bring a little bit extra just in case. If you're car camping or canoe camping, you can throw it in your car, throw it in your canoe, no problem. If you're bike packing or backpacking, that becomes a little bit of an issue because you're worried about the weight. But having a little bit extra, backup kind of stuff, I find really helps. And almost every trip I go on, I discover that, oh man, I'm glad I brought this little extra thing, because if I didn't bring it, my trip wouldn't have been as good. So bring a little bit extra, know your gear, and make sure you have all the proper gear before your first solo camping trip. Another important safety tip is to share your plan. Make sure somebody knows where you're going to be. Whether that's a friend, family member, coworker, doesn't matter. Make sure somebody knows where you're going to be. Now, whether that's car camping or canoe camping, it's really important that somebody knows where you're going to be. You can give them coordinates from a map, anything like that, that they can know where you're going to be. For me, I actually have a Garmin GPS unit with the map, and I can ping my wife and let her know where I am now and where I'm going to be going next. so that she knows if I don't make it to the next spot, maybe something has gone wrong, and then she can contact the facility that I'm at. Which is another good thing, is make sure if you're camping at a certain spot that has a number for safety, emergency number, make sure you give that to the same person so that they know where you are, but they also have the ability to contact you if something goes wrong at home and they need to get in touch with you, or maybe they want to tell you something very important, that they can get in touch with you somehow. When you're out in the backcountry, Algonquin Park or anything like that, it's really hard to do that, but at least you have some kind of emergency number so that the wardens or the park rangers, if something does happen at home and they need to get in contact with you, they can do that. But also, when your family and friends, they can also monitor where you're going and know that you're safe, which is really important when you're solo camping. Now, this may be my oddest tip yet, and that is to choose your weather. If you look at today, it's a beautiful day to do some filming. It rained yesterday, it's gonna rain tomorrow, but today is a nice day, so I chose to come out today. Now, you can't always do that when it comes to camping trips. A lot of these great spots are taken up months in advance, so you just kind of roll with it and hope for nice weather. Although camping in the rain can be a lot of fun if you're prepared for it. I actually really enjoy that. And winter camping, the weather's not great sometimes, but it's a lot of fun, and it makes for great videos to be out in harsh weather, I guess. But if you have a chance to choose your weather, that's the way to go. And what do I mean by that is sometimes people cancel their camping trip. That happens all the time, right? For various reasons, people cancel the trip. So I will look on a specific park. If I'm free specific days coming up in that week, I'll look at the weather, say, okay, it's gonna be nice on this day. Then I'll go look at the schedule. And if someone has just released the date because they can't make it, sometimes the parks release those days and now you can book them again. And I've had a lot of luck doing last minute bookings because people cancel. So that way I can choose the weather that I want, which is important for me because I love being at the camera and film, and it's a lot easier to film when it's the nice weather. And at nighttime, I love doing night lapses and time-lapse videos at night with the stars, so I need a clear sky. So if I'm able to choose my weather, that makes my camping trip that much better. One of my favorite things about solo camping is the adventure aspect of it. There's just something exciting about being out in the woods all alone by yourself. You're responsible for everything that happens. Essentially, you gotta cook your own food, set up your own tent, gather your own wood, all that kind of stuff. You're responsible for all that stuff. So it could be adventure, but it also can be really empowering, knowing that, well, you're responsible for yourself. No one else is gonna cook your food. If you want a fire, you gotta go gather the wood. All this stuff is on you. You have to do it all. So it could be a little nerve-wracking, but once you get to it and once you get the confidence to do all this stuff, it could be really empowering. And I talk to people all the time that have tried solo camping for the first time, and the biggest thing they mentioned is the confidence level and how it grew each time they went solo camping. Sure, they were nervous at first, and so was I. I was very nervous, but I had a great time, and I didn't let my nerves and the stress get in the way of having a good time. And the people that have done it for the first time, they really learned how to do everything. They're on their own, and now the next time they go out, they're not an expert, but they're much better at it. And the more you do stuff, the better you get. So for me, solo camping could be very, very empowering. One of the things I do on every camping trip is bring some home comforts, meaning something that you bring from home that you really, really like, that it's going to make your camping trip a little bit more enjoyable. For me, I bring my tablet, and I have some books on there that I'll read at night, whether at the campfire or just before bed in the tent. I'll read them, and it's something I enjoy. I'll also download some videos on there just in case if it's pouring rain and I can't get out of the campsite. I'll do some movie watching in the tent. It also means food. Bring food that you like. I mean, this is your trip. This is your chance to bring stuff that you like. You don't have to worry about everybody else. So bring some snacks and stuff that's going to make your trip a little bit more enjoyable. So the last tip I have for you is you could just go home. If solo camping isn't working out, you're out there in the woods and it's just not your thing. You're miserable, it's hot, too many bugs, worried about animals, there's a storm, all that kind of stuff, you can go home. If you've car camped, very simple, pack all your stuff up. Don't even pack it up at the campsite, just throw it in the car and just go home, worry about it later. Don't worry about having to go home. Sometimes that happens. It's not an absolute failure. Maybe that trip just wasn't the trip for you. And maybe you've learned something from that trip where you had to go home that you can take away, and next trip could be a little bit better because now you have a little bit more knowledge on how to solo camp a little bit better, and maybe you can go out again and have a really good time that time. Okay, so let's talk about safety for a little bit. Being out in the woods on your own can be a little bit scary, right? Especially it's dark, you hear lots of noises, you're worrying about storms, you're worrying about animals. There's a lot that can go wrong while you're out in the woods by yourself. However, we don't control a lot of that. A lot of that is in our mind. So the thing that we can control is what we bring with us. So if you're worried about animals, make sure you have bear spray. Now, I've never actually had to use the bear spray. I've watched videos and I've actually had experts show me how the bear spray works. So if I had to use the bear spray, I'd be a little bit more confident. I'd be nervous, of course, but at least I'd be a little bit more confident on how it works. So familiarize yourself with something like the bear spray. One of the other things I always bring with me is some kind of bat or club, and I just keep it in my tent or nearby just in case I need it. I also have my knife that I use for chopping up wood, for batoning wood. I also have my hatchet, which I use for wood, that if something did happen, I always have a little bit of protection that makes me feel a little bit better. So I suggest that you make sure you bring something like that with you on your trip so you feel a little bit more secure on a solo camping trip. Now, my next tip may be my favorite tip of all time, and that's not to be too hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up while you're camping. Solo camping is hard. Matter of fact, camping is hard, and you're gonna screw up. I screw up all the time. Matter of fact, I might make a video on all my screw ups. It'll be a long one, trust me. Maybe the fire is not starting the way you wanted. Maybe you didn't collect enough wood. Maybe the tent isn't set up the way you wanted it to be set up. Maybe you burnt the food. Yeah, that's a big one of mine. That's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. This happens all the time. One of the problems is, if you watch a lot of YouTube videos, you get to see people out camping, solo camping, whatever, and it looks awesome. Their food looks awesome, their tent, their setup, their tarp, it looks fantastic. A lot of times people just don't show you how much they screw up, whether they've knocked over the tent 3 or 4 times, whether they burnt the food. It happens to all of us, but you just see the best parts on YouTube or any kind of video. You're gonna see the best parts, but trust me, I have those problems and they have those problems as well. So don't be too hard on yourself when you're solo camping. It's not easy. You can do it, but don't be too hard on yourself. Okay, so there are my tips for solo camping. Hopefully, you'll take something from this video that'll help you on your next solo camping trip, or maybe it's your first time out in the woods on your own, and these tips will help you out a little bit. Now, for the rest of you who have been solo camping quite often, let me know some of your favorite tips down in the comments. I love going through the comments and seeing what other people do when they're camping. I think it's one of the best things about YouTube is to read people's comments and get ideas that way. Anyways, I've talked too much today, so I'm gonna leave. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.